Welcome to Between Shelves.
Where we make connections between literature, theology, philosophy, psychology, and culture.
Join us as we explore the interconnectedness of race, spirituality, psychology, and meta-modernism.
Each episode invites you into a thought-provoking journey, unpacking how these elements shape our understanding of the world and ourselves.
My name is Aaron Waldron. We're a religiously traumatized theopoet and a shaman in journey. Our work focuses on creating community and between spaces for religiously traumatized millennials, navigating life beyond colonized religion.
And my name is Rafael Reyes. My work is on the importance of imagination and theopoetics in philosophy and religious pluralism.
We invite you to Between Shelves
to learn,
listen,
and become.
There was something you mentioned being in that library space that impacted me, and I think is why we are starting Between Shelves. And it was about why aren't more people having theological discussions? And it leads us to this, leads us to Between Shelves. This is why we do what we do, and also why we interconnect philosophy, psychology, culture with theology, right? Theology is really a part of all of those other aspects that many don't know of, right? And we're talking about the sacred. And some people were arguing, oh, the sacred can only be here in this particular place. And I said, we're in an era of technological advancement where the sacred is everywhere. In a podcast, in a Zoom piece, in a digital image, we can feel or interact with the divine. Or the divine can use it as a way of interaction. Back, I think, several years ago, a colleague of mine, we created They Warned Us, which was a podcast that focused on science fiction, dystopian films. Yeah. And if the values that were instilled there were values of people of color. I guess the case in point, we watched a whole bunch of films to say, did any Black or Hispanics ever make it to the end of the film? That's pretty much what it was. Or how were people of color depicted in the films? And that was a fabulous journey on the podcast. I really enjoyed that. And here I go again. Funny enough, I think that kind of segues into actually our first discussion. We have been working on a writing project that looks at this probably within the past 10, 20 years, maybe, meta-modernism, this topic called meta-modernism that's coming out. Meta-modernism is the next phase of the past two cultural components of modernism and postmodernism. And now we have something called meta-modernism. And we're asking a very similar question. Where do we see the engagement of race in this meta-modern structure, in this meta-modern form of thinking? Meta-modernism is the next phase or the next iteration from modernism, postmodernism to meta-modernism. It's not a break away from, it's sort of a culmination, because it actually recombines both of them. It's taking the best of both worlds and doing something with it. Because when you talked about the birth of a nation, in one person's eyes, it's a historical drama that's supposed to get you to think and say, this is somewhat of a depiction of something that was happening, right? And we need to be careful of it. And for another, this is our idealization and something we need to uphold. I think the way that film was meant to be explored, it's full of metaphor. It becomes a myth for us to really think about a situation. And that talks to my area that I focus my time on, which is on the imagination, mythos, where symbolization happens. And that, if you have control of that, I mean, if you have control of your faculties and you create your symbols and you read and watch certain films and are able to really slow down and take it all in and think that through, you start seeing and developing values that come from it. And so I resonate with what you're saying there. Someone that has been trained to slowly reflect has a different way of looking at it than someone who's been told you don't have time to reflect. You need to act upon something. And so then when you look at a film, it immediately you get the first symbolic imagery piece that comes up, and then you idolize that. I'm really thinking about this symbolization, and there's a piece that in the writing that we were starting, and also something I go to often. It's in this book called Religion in the Making by Alfred North Whitehead. So I first want to preface this to say, we don't want to hold on to just European thinkers. It's in a book he made called Religion in the Making. This guy was, for me, far ahead of his time. He was a process thinker. So he falls in the lines of Heraclitus, pre-Socratic, who was just phenomenal. But this is what he writes. And this isn't concerning religion. As far as religion is concerned, the distinction of a world consciousness as contrasted with a social consciousness is a change of emphasis in the concept of rightness. And I want to hold on to world consciousness. He's really pushing for us to say, I can't only think about myself, and I can't only think about a certain society. I have to think about a universe. I have to think about a world. He says, the social consciousness concerns people whom you know and love individually. So rightness is mixed with the notion of preservation. That means you preserve those you love. Conduct is right which will lead some God to protect you, and it is wrong if it stirs some irascible being to compass your destruction, right? Who wants to destroy me? Oh man, then that becomes my enemy. And he goes, that diplomacy. He goes, that's diplomacy, right? But he goes, a world consciousness becomes disengaged. And I think that's really interesting. He goes, I have to think beyond myself. I don't know everything. That means there's a little bit of subjectivity, there's a little bit of objectivity. Disengaged is somewhat objective. It rises to the conception of an essential rightness of things, of all things. Individuals are indifferent because we don't know everyone. But I still have to think about them.